All right, everyone, we're going to jump in here. We're going to take a quick look at how to do an inter-item reliability analysis. We've got items from an instrument, and we want to see how reliable those items are, if they play well together, for lack of a better term. First thing to point out, so you'll see that there's some different little signals up here next to our questions. I did this on purpose just to show you what might pop up. You want your variables to all be scale variables, so they have a little ruler, but if you see any that aren't like that, just click on the icon and switch it over. Just switching it over to scale to make sure that your data is all good and ready to go. One other thing I want to point out to you is that, yes, we're doing a reliability analysis, so we're going to be using the reliability menu. If that's not there, you are going to want to go over here and check for it. All right, so this is a whole list of things that you can add. And if the reliability is not there, so it's just missing, again, press the little plus sign here, click on reliability, and then the menu will show up for you. And that's what we're going to be using. We're doing a classical single test reliability analysis here today. It does give you a couple warnings right now with the version of JASP that I am using. The two things you need to know is that this could take some time. It might be a little laggy because the file can get really big if you have a lot of questions. We only have 8 questions, so I'm hoping that won't be an issue. The other thing to know is that if you have more questions, variables in your scale, than you do actual participants or observations, you're going to have some trouble with that. So keep that in mind if you're creating a scale, which I hope you would be keeping that in mind anyway, because that's good practice. But that doesn't apply to us here, so I'm just Xing that out. We're just going to focus on doing our test because we've got some nice clean data to play with. So we've got data on 8 questions. We have chosen to do the single test reliability analysis from the reliability menu that we added using the little plus sign. What we're going to do is take all of our questions and pop them over here into the box, and we're going to let the computer start doing its magic. You'll notice that in the table, it's going to be returning to us McDonald's W here. We're going to go ahead and change that to Cronbach's Alpha, so we can see how that would be done as well. You can click and choose different ones here. Cronbach is probably the most common inter-item reliability statistic out there, so I'm going to go ahead and keep that. And let's take a look at what it's telling us. So for these 8 questions, it's saying that the point estimate, or in other words, Cronbach's alpha, is 0.371. And that the confidence interval around that goes from a low of 0.18 to a high of 0.52. It also is telling us that we have some items that are correlating negatively with the scale, 5, 6, and 8. This is all very good information. First of all, it's telling us that our Cronbach alpha is not good. It's very low. And it's also telling us that it looks like we might have 3 items that are not really correlating correctly the way we might think. We can ask it to give us a little bit more information, for example, individual item statistics. If you don't have a good Cronbach's alpha, you got to find one. And the way you might do that is to look at the various items and figure out, if I removed certain items, if I dropped them, what would my Cronbach alpha be? We wouldn't want to drop question 1 or 2, because as you can see, if we dropped them, the number is going to go even lower. The same is true for question 3 and question 4. Question 5, it'll bump up a little bit from 0.37 to 0.39. Question 6, it would take an even bigger leap to 0.47. Question 7 would cause it to drop lower. Question 8 would allow it to go up. So what we're seeing here is that these 3 questions, 5, 6, and 8 down here, are panning out to suggest that they might need to be removed so that our Cronbach's alpha could go up. Let's do that and let's see what happens. Again, I'm only doing this because my Cronbach alpha starting out was very low. If your Cronbach alpha is reasonable, above a 6.0, above a 6.5 in the get-go, you don't need to change anything. All right, here we go. So we've got a Cronbach alpha that's at a 0.60. It certainly is at the lower end of things. If we glance through here, we can see that if we removed the 4th question, that would allow it to go a little bit higher. So we would end up with a scale that has 4 items and taking out that question number 4, when it finishes cooking here, we have a Cronbach alpha of 0.70 with a confidence interval of 0.60 to 0.77. 0.60 is really kind of the absolute lowest people would accept as a reasonable inner item reliability. So I feel comfortable having that as my lowest confidence interval, and being around this 0.70 in general. I like that. So that's how you could do this analysis. Now, there is another side to this where you're actually looking at the content of what are the items, what are the questions, and using that to guide your selection of what gets included and what gets taken out. You can also have criteria set up a priori before you begin this that says, if I have an item that is, when removed, will increase Cronbach's alpha by this amount, I am going to take that step and I'm going to remove it. It's always good to have those rules defined up front, what you're going to do and what makes sense to you. So this was just a, quick and dirty kind of example to show you the functionality. If you put your items in and you get a Cronbach's alpha that's already a good Cronbach's alpha, it's above that 6.0. I like 6.5 personally, but if it's above that 0.60, then you're probably okay to stay there. Consult with your experts, consult with your literature, your other colleagues you're working with. But if it's not above that value, then you can ask for these individual item analysis, and you can, work with it and see what are the items that seem to work best here in terms of inter-item reliability. In this case, we've found 4 of them: question 1, 2, 3, and 7. So those are the questions we would keep on our assessment or on our instrument, whatever it is, moving forward into our validity study, which is beyond the scope of this quick little video. All right, folks, that's it today for reliability.